All right, so today we're going to find out if Wade Allen is insane because anybody who chooses this industry probably has just a little bit of insanity deep inside them, right?
Yeah,
So,
that's definitely true.
so Wade, it's so nice to meet you, and I'm very excited for this conversation. What? Again? ¿Qué pasó? They're telling me about the clap. Anyway, ¿estamos? Oh,
We want Wade
he's
to
asking
do
you
it
to clap
too.
also.
Oh, claro.
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 Vamos.
There we go. Excellent. So, Wade Allen, we're going to find out if you are insane today, and I am super excited to talk to you because your experience is one that I've always dreamed of. And let me say this because when I was growing up in the industry, I remember always, as soon as corporate was coming in, I worked at the Capitol Grill as an example. Everybody was so excited, nervous. Everybody's like, double tasting their food. Got to check the bathrooms, make sure the lighting is good.
Yeah.
And I always thought to myself, like, how do you get there? And maybe we're going to learn a little bit about how you got there, which is exciting to me. And it's also going to be a lot of fun to talk about what compels you to love and stay in this industry. So,
Awesome.
so wait, where are you in the world these days?
Yeah, well, today I'm physically located in a little city called Pleasant Grove, Utah. We're right in the shadow of a mountain called Mount Timpanogos. So, great big mountain sits behind me, kind of nestled in this area. And that's primarily because our headquarters are here, primarily because Costa Vida, the restaurant that I lead, and the brand that I lead is based mostly in the West. So Utah, Idaho, Arizona, a little in Texas, kind of California area. So that's why this corporate headquarters is here and where our support center is.
And when you joined the team at Costa Vida, was a big part of it going back to to to
To Utah.
to Utah,
Yeah.
or did that
Yeah, for
happen? Like, did you join? You know what I mean? Like, tell me how that happened.
Yeah, I mean, life's kind of serendipitous, right? It's full circle sometimes. And I left this area, like literally just up the street, when I was 23 years old. I was headed to grad school in Chicago, and I didn't know if I was ever going to come back to the state of Utah. I loved it growing up as a kid, but kind of left and spent a lot of time in all different parts of the United States and even in Europe. And 22 years later, I found myself exiting Chili's after a 10-year run with Brinker and looking for what my next was going to be. And I had an opportunity to keynote on a second day a conference in Austin that I wasn't going to attend because I had just left Chili's, but my wife convinced me, no, go and speak. And lo and behold, I met the two owners of Costa Vida sitting front row. And they were based in Utah. They had known my name. They knew I was recently released from Chili's. They knew I was kind of had been and lived here. And so, man, they just said, hey, how do we get you back? And man, my heartstrings come back to Utah at that point. I think as you get to be an old guy, right now pushing into the 50s, your heart gets softened and you have that kind of nostalgic pull to go home. And so for me, all of my siblings and all of my nieces and nephews lived here. My mom lived here. So this was like the perfect opportunity. I got to come back to a brand that I knew that was in its infancy when I left Utah and lead that brand as the president and also be close to family. And those things were that sealed the deal. I said, absolutely, let's go.
That's amazing. And so I guess the lesson there is go to the conference. If you're on the fence, just go to the conference, right?
Go to the conference, right?
Especially if
Yep.
you're going to be. So you were on stage for
I
this,
was.
and
Yeah.
you were considering, maybe I won't go.
Yeah, because I sometimes, you feel like people love you in the industry and you have these relationships, but they're really, it's the title and the brand that you represent. And so I was really nervous, like, hey, I just left as a chief digital officer from Chili's or Brinker. And I called the guy and he's like, no, listen, I want to hear what Wade Allen has to say. Your experience is your experience.
Yeah.
Just tell people that what had happened and then go ahead and give your presentation. And so as I did that, and he was right, and my wife's like, you're going. And so when we did it, She's got a, women have this fifth sense that we guys are kind of blind to, like they
Yeah.
have or sense that
Yeah.
they have.
Seventh sometimes.
Seven sometimes, right? They just
Yes.
know, and sometimes you just have to go with their gut, and she was right. It worked out.
And so I got to ask then. So is your wife also from Utah?
No,
She's not.
she's not. She's Washington State. That's where she grew
Okay,
up.
so that's kind of close. You still got the
Yeah.
outdoors, right?
Yeah.
You've got the beautiful West. I mean, that's wonderful. Okay, cool. So then Wade, I got to ask, did you ever work in a restaurant previous in your Utah years? Did you ever spend any time in restaurants?
Absolutely did. So my
Okay.
first, so you can't laugh, right? This is serious business.
Okay.
My first job when I was 14 years old was assistant to the dishwasher
No way.
at Ricardo's Mexican restaurant here in Orem, Utah. And I was a big deal. I was super pumped. They were paying me $4.25 an hour. I was gonna assist with the dishes. Really what that meant is I had to spray them all off to load them, and he was going to oversee that and then actually load them onto the dish carts and make sure they got put back correctly or to the team members. So listen, that was super interesting. That's why my first real job, I mean, I had paper out before, but that was really my first job. And so it was kind of this, hey, this industry is pretty cool. Like, and then I worked myself into a busser position.
Oof.
And my whole life changed because the waitresses would tip me, and I was like, this is freaking awesome. I'm
I
walking
agree.
with fistfuls of cash every night, and I'm like 15.
And when you're making $4.25, that extra $20-$30 goes a long way.
A long way.
Yes.
Right? Yeah.
It also goes to show you how much this industry has changed because you were the assistant to the dishwasher. Now you can't even find a dishwasher. You can't find a head of dishwashing.
No, there's no head of dishwashing. Like
it's
a role in and of it's not a role in and of itself usually, right? So, I mean,
okay. All right, wait. So you got a taste, and I'm sure this was called Ricardo's, right?
Yeah, Ricardo's Mexican restaurant.
Ricardo's must have been insane and busy. I have a feeling.
Yeah.
And so okay, so did you stay with Ricardo's for a long time, like through high school and stuff?
So I worked at Ricardo's for about 2 years. And after getting my tail kicked over and over again, because that place was just slammed busy on the weekends, and I loved it because there was a lot of money in it as a young kid. But when I turned 16, I started dabbling in some other jobs, and I got a car wash that still made some tips, and I kind of played in different areas. But eventually I found myself into serving at a place called Thanksgiving Point, which is a crazy name, but it's actually a place up here in Utah where some of the millionaires that had come out of, or big players had come out of Word Perfect. I don't know if you guys remember that.
Yes.
First kind of technology novell, Word Perfect. These guys built this center just up the road, and it had this really nice restaurant, and I became a server, and I loved it because I could work nights and weekends. I could go to school during the week, during the day. Like, it just kind of fit my role, and I did that for about 1.5 years as well.
What was Thanksgiving Point all about? I mean, please tell me, was there turkey on the menu or no?
there is, but this was it's kind of like, I mean, I don't even know how to explain this. It's got it was dedicated for the people in this area, and it's got all sorts of wildlife, and it's got a petting zoo, and it's got a movie theater, and it's a dinosaur museum, and it's got a beautiful restaurant, and it's got a flower garden. I mean, it's just an amazing place, but it's got the goofiest name, Thanksgiving Point.
Is it still there?
It is. Yeah, it is thriving. It's huge. Yeah.
So you could literally go pet some wild animal and then potentially have a medium rare version of their parent.
Absolutely. Yes. they absolutely is true.
Wild. Okay, so then when you went off to school, so you go to Chicago, right? After you're in Utah?
Yep.
And did you know that you wanted to study, that your studies would lead you back to restaurants, or how did you choose your career path?
Yeah, man. Here's the crazy thing is that it kind of chose me. I mean, I went to study. I had also started a little web development firm here in Utah at the kind of the turn of the at the 2000s, kind of right in the internet bubble. And
What
so
a
I kind of set it aside. I left it. I sold it. I got out of it. And then I went to grad school, and I was fully intentioned to come back and work in the tech field.
okay.
And for the first part of my career after I graduated from grad school at Northwestern, I found myself in grocery doing kind of technical jobs. I was writing code to extract data and doing analytical work. And it wasn't until probably 15 years later, and that took me from the United States to London and back before I found restaurants. And
Wow.
when I found restaurants, I felt home. For the first time in my career, I felt like I can run a corporate office that oversees a restaurant because I know how restaurants work and I know how they function. People never considered me an operations guy,
Right.
but I knew it growing up as a kid. I'd been in it. I just didn't build my entire career in it. And so it was easy to come back to restaurants.
And I mean, so you spent some time away and like you mentioned like some development stuff, which is incredible, living overseas. But did you find Brinker and Chili's like was that the next step? Was that your because a huge leap going into
Yeah.
such a big
It
job.
was, well, the story is, so I'd been in the agency. So I went to grocery stores and been doing some work consulting with grocery stores when I was first out of school. And then I went the agency route. And the agency route makes you learn 50 different roles, right? Technologist, account management, you're learning creative, you're dealing with digital. So I learned all this stuff about marketing and running business and being accountable for P&Ls. And then I did a startup, kind of ran a little startup inside of an agency called Coupon Factory. It was attached to a group called Rockfish Interactive.
Okay.
And Rockfish Interactive eventually got sold by WPP. And so the division that I was in was going to go back to a bigger agency. And I was kind of tired. I just said, man, I can't keep doing this. I'm traveling a lot. I'm
Yeah.
away from my little kids and my wife. And I got a call from a friend who said, this group's trying to hire me. It's not for me, but it might be for you. You should
Interesting.
look at these guys. Their name's Brinker, and you should go talk to them. And I said, okay. And I had a conversation with the CMO, and she said, at first we couldn't figure out how to connect. Like I was going to the wrong restaurant to meet her, and then she went to a different place, and it was kind of a mess. And I thought, oh, this isn't going to work.
Yeah.
Eventually we connected, and she was really impressed with the digital kind of strategy that I could bring to the organization. So she brings me in, and I interview with Wyman Roberts. I don't know if you know him, but he was the CEO of Brinker for years. I mean, this cat is the coolest guy I know. He's still a really good friend of mine. But
Awesome.
so I'm sitting there, and Wyman's kind of a stern dude, or he looks stern. He's
Yeah.
kind of like an M&M. He's got a kind of a hard candy out of the shell, but he's really gooey.
But he
on the
never
inside.
melts. He never melts.
He never melts, right? So I'm sitting in this meeting with Wyman, and he basically asks me, why do you want to get into restaurants? And I can't even remember the answer I gave him, but the gist of it was, I feel like I know restaurants. I feel like I could bring a ton of value, and I know I've done a lot of blue sky thinking in other areas that I think I can bring to restaurants. So we had this awesome conversation for like an hour and a half, and he said, "What do you want to do someday? Like, what's your ultimate goal?"
Yeah.
And I looked him straight in the face and said, "I want your job in 10 years." And he chuckled, and he said, "Well, maybe 12 or 15 years, but yeah, okay, let's keep talking." And so the next thing I know, 3 days later, I get an offer from Brinker, and I didn't even know. I honestly did not know what the role title was when I walked in there. And I asked Krista, the CMO, I'm like, "What's the title?" And she's like, "You're the vice president of digital." And I'm like, "Ooh, that sounds like a big title.
Yeah.
Like, how did I land here?" But at the moment, you want to show that. So you're like, yeah.
Yeah, of course.
It's the vice president, right?
Just VP.
Yeah, just VP. Couldn't go SVP.
Yeah.
So for me, it was like, holy cow, imposter syndrome. You just walked your way into a very big organization as a VP. You better deliver. And that was the start of a really, really great run for a decade with Brinker.
And so this was like 15 years ago, right?
Yeah, almost 15.
So Wade, back then, and it's very interesting to me because first off, changes in technology happen like year over year. And it's like things that you took for granted I don't know, 2 years ago now become like obsolete. And I can
Yeah.
only imagine what was going on back then. So, like, what was the initial strategy back then? Considering, I mean, I want to think 15 years ago, AOL was still like
Yeah.
kind of
Not
the
that
thing, right?
they're kind of in there. So it's not that far. I mean, I walked into an organization that didn't understand Google search, didn't understand placement of restaurants on a map for Google search,
Oof, and that's
and was
huge for
doing
something like that, right? I mean,
yeah, right. Like I could do that and probably unlock millions of dollars, right?
right.
They were advertising in freestanding inserts in newspapers,
Wow.
and I'm like, what? I'm like,
Wow.
I haven't even picked up a newspaper in like 5 years from that point or 10 years from that point. So for me, there was tons of low hanging fruit, right? It was like, let's just get your marketing figured out. Let's just start a loyalty program. Let's put tablets on the table. Let's start doing direct marketing through email. Let's start, all of these simple things that we've been doing in retail and other places for quite some time. They looked at me like, you're the smartest guy we've ever met. And
Maybe
I'm
you
like,
are. Maybe you are.
let's just keep that within our four walls, because I guarantee the moment you walk outside and ask somebody else, they'll be like, duh. So it was fun. It was, I mean, for the first 3 years, I felt like I was making more waves and change that the operations team could accept. And that was a huge learning part for me, was because I'd never worked in a place where, on the operations side, where corporate would bring down these initiatives and you had to make these changes and it would disrupt your world. And so I learned a
Ah,
ton about, oh, slow down, let's go smooth, let's get these really trained in and learned before we start piling multiple initiatives on top of an ops team.
it's insane to me, Wade, that your first, like, obviously you spent some time in restaurants in your formative years, but I can't imagine stepping into a role like that. I mean, how many stores is Chili's? Like 1,000?
1600.
More, yeah. So
Yeah.
let's say you're doing tablets, right? Like that's a wild one. You're doing tablets in the stores.
Yeah.
Like, how does that conversation go? I'm just, first it's just like, how much are they? And then it's like,
Yeah.
who's gonna
Yeah.
break them? And then it's like, who do we have to train? And then how do we, like, so how do you roll
Yeah.
something? Like, for example, would you ever do like a drink special or something on a tablet?
Yeah.
Okay, so
So
how do you roll that out?
well, the hardest part was exactly when you first started, which is like convincing the teams that this was something that we were going to invest in,
Okay,
because the investment was like 20 some odd $1 million. They were just going to get busted and hucked off the table.
yeah,
Operators going to have to deal with returns and maintenance. Like, this is what the ops team saw from the beginning, and they weren't wrong. There was a lot of that nonsense that they had to deal with. The nail in the coffin was building the business case, that that I had to do to put the tablets on the table. And so the business case was like, okay, let's get them in some restaurants, let's test it, and let's see what happens.
yeah,
And as we did that, ops got much more comfortable going, okay, I'll test it at a few restaurants, because then you're not disrupting everything.
yeah.
Leadership went, well, what were the results? Did we see a traffic increase? Did we make more money? Did we sell more drinks? What happened? And so once I got that kind of convinced in with the COO and a few others, then it started to pick up some speed momentum. And then once I had a traffic increase, once I could show that I could get a 2.5% traffic increase in the restaurants that had the tablets versus those that didn't, it was game over. Executives wanted to roll it faster
Got
than
it.
was even feasibly possible. So.
Insane.
And then we used it. We leveraged the heck out of it for like drink specials and game nights, and we used it for local charity stuff that we wanted to position. So then it became a tool that,
Yeah.
though the operators didn't love it because there's still that kind of operational component of repair and maintenance, they appreciated it because they knew it was bringing incremental dollars and adding to the check.
Yeah, from my perspective as an operator, I could see how I'm like, oh man, here's something I gotta constantly keep an eye on, right? Every table's got something I gotta double check to make sure it doesn't have, like onion ring sauce on it or whatever, right?
Yeah.
But the other
Yeah.
part of it is, like you said, I mean, the communication. And look, I mean, you were on the forefront of what now is, at least in a corporate style dining, very standard, right?
Yeah.
But it's like, I can imagine the pushback you got, and I'm sure excellent negotiator because
Well, you learn to be. I actually tell people I became a senator because I would literally canvass doors before the meeting to be like, "Hey, we talked about this. Where are
you
you
remember?
leaning?" I'm like tallying votes to make sure I can get it through Congress, right?
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, I love that. And so then moving on from Chili's and now going into Costa Vida. So Costa Vida, how many stores were you when you jumped in and how spread out was it?
Yeah. So I came in about 90
Which
stores.
which is a lot.
30 of them we owned, 60 of them were owned by franchisees.
Okay.
I had hopes that we would hit the century mark pretty aggressively. And we chased that a little bit. What I found is that there was some pruning and some
Mm,
health metrics I had to take care of within the brand. When you get the keys to be the president, you think, all right, I'm going to take this car out for a spin. I'm going to show people how we're going to drive this. And then you realize,
yeah.
ooh, we got some dirty carpets and we got
Yeah,
an air
sure.
filter that needs to be changed and the tires are bad, right? So the overall car, like if we stay with that kind of like symbolism, was in great shape. But we had to prune some restaurants that were just
Sure.
not making money. We've been dragging them for a long time. So we're 90 today, and
Great.
we were 90 when I came in, right? But we've got a build strategy kind of revving up, getting ready to go.
And so if you could describe Costa Vida, because obviously I'm an East Coast guy. So this is a
Yeah,
great
yeah,
opportunity for me to just get like an idea of Costa Vida from your perspective. So obviously we've got, Chipotle is like the
yeah,
household name. And then there's
yeah,
Moe's. I've seen many Moe's Southwesterns. And then there's Baja Fresh. So
yep.
where do you guys position yourselves? And do you feel like there's more competition because I feel like the West Coast is maybe a little bit more, since it's closer to Mexico and has a little bit more of like a Latino influence. Do you
Yeah.
feel like you can? How does that play into your?
Yeah. So so we look a lot like those objects. I mean, we're counter service, it's
Okay,
fast cash, right?
okay,
Um, One of the things that we do that I'm just so proud of, and one of the reasons I feel at home is um, my previous restaurant experience was more freezer to fryer. We had a few fresh things, but it was kind of, you're
yeah,
frying a lot of food and you're kind of, the health aspect is a little bit lower, right?
sure, yeah,
Costa's food is remarkable. I eat it multiple times a week and have since I've started. My wife's gluten free. My son's got celiac, so he's a diabetic.
yeah,
So, but the food that we serve is just so clean and so healthy and so fresh. It's all made in house. Everything's scratched. We don't have freezers in our restaurants,
rad,
um, and it's a Baja flavor. So you get a lot of tomatillo, and you get a lot of jalapeno, and you get a lot of like these really vibrant, rich, colorful sauces that you get on the West Coast of Baja, Mexico.
cool,
Um, our claim to fame is like we serve, and a lot of Southerners will think it's almost barbecue flavor, but it's a sweet pork burrito, and it's got a delicious sweet flavor to it, almost a candy flavor to it. Some of the customers will say,
interesting,
and it's shredded, but we spend hours and hours and hours cooking this in our kitchens before we open for the day. So it's a great concept, and it is like a household name inside of the state of Utah and Idaho. For some reason, it started here, so people just love it. They
awesome.
beg for the recipes. They try to search it up online. They know our brand. We've got to win outside of our state, and so really it comes to how do we win in Arizona and Texas, and how do we win in Colorado, and how do we go toe to toe with Chipotle in California, and that's what we're actively working to unlock. I think people are done with the $17 bowls and the $20 burritos, and so we come in at a very strong value,
Okay,
kind of at that $9 or $10 price point for a
that's
really
insane.
large portion.
That's insane.
Yeah, yeah. And so I mean, it is. You've heard about the Chili's 10.99 bottomless chips and drink and a burger. Our burritos with the items that we sell in a drink, we're right at that price point, and it's every bit as filling and much healthier for you. I just love this brand. Right? I just
That's
love it.
awesome. So then it sounds to me like the positioning is definitely around quality of food, freshness of
Yep.
flavor. Now, putting on your CEO hat, Wade, how much of this growth and how much of this evolution do you believe is going to be from the marketing aspect as opposed to what you were saying just earlier about like really making sure the engine is tight?
Yep.
Like I wonder how now you maybe see the difference in, okay, the marketing department's driving me insane, or I understand where they're coming from, or you know what I mean? Like, how now have your perspectives changed as the CEO as opposed
Yep.
to being on the digital marketing side?
Yeah, it's shifted. My focus is on operational excellence. It's all about providing high quality food, brand standards, actively working to allow our teams to feel engaged and empowered, and ultimately it's about providing systems that my operations team can deliver consistency. Marketing is the fuel that will help
Hmm.
that fire grow, but if the fire itself isn't lit and strong, no amount of marketing will sustain this brand going forward. Now, if you'd asked me that 5 years ago, I would have told you just run the restaurant, just serve the food. Marketing will do most of the heavy lifting. So it's completely changed. It's shifted significantly in the last 5 years, and specifically in the last 2 years as I've become the president of this brand.
Interesting. I find it, there's so many times in life where I've previously, for example, I was a wine guy. I used to run beverage programs. Then you become the GM, then you become a director of ops. And it's not until you're in these different roles and you see the different pressures you've got that you
Yeah.
realize, wow, I was such a pain in the ass. That poor GM, all he
Yeah.
said was, we'll get the wine when we can. We'll get it when we can. If the allocation's gone, it's gone. I'm sorry. And then
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, wow, payroll is a thing. You know what I mean? All of a sudden, I'm like, things completely change. But so
Yeah.
So Wade, it sounds like you are, I mean, a part of the fabric of Utah and Idaho. So with that said,
Yeah. Yeah.
how often are you going into stores? And and when you go into stores, what kind of things are you looking for from the store? Just from the perspective of somebody who obviously like wants to see the brand in the macro, micro, all of the different facets.
Yeah. I'm in stores weekly. Like last week, I spent a full day in 4 different stores, and we go in, we test the food, we try the food, every single, and I do it with the general managers. We sit down, we go through every single, we go through the beans, we go through the rice, we go through the chicken, we go through the pork, we go through the
Wow.
sauces, we go through the salsas, and we taste them together, and we talk about it because that's still the best litmus test for success. Is did you taste it? Did you walk the line and did you taste all the ingredients before you served it? Right.
Right.
My approach when I go into restaurants always is, if it's an announced visit, it's an opportunity for me to listen and for them to tell me how they're doing and what's happening, and then it's an opportunity to together experience that restaurant. If
Yeah.
it's an unannounced visit, for me, generally I won't ever announce it. I'll just quietly come in,
Yeah.
I'll watch, get a drink, I'll buy a dessert, I'll do something. And um, and that for me is where I can see I'm really watching customers, right? That's where
Yeah.
I'll tend to put my marketing hat on and try to overhear conversations and watch how they actually consume the brand. And does the floor get swept after they leave? And do people help them with their drinks? And are they having trouble with the app? That's usually the time that I'll spend looking at those things. But Dave Rudder, who is one of the owners of this brand, I spend time with him weekly as we go into the restaurants, and he's old school, and so it starts in the parking lot, right? He's walking the parking lot, and he's looking for trash, and he's pulling weeds, and then it's
Interesting.
checking door jambs, and it's checking windowsills, and it's he's got this aspect that's been in his bones since he's in his mid 60s now, and he was when he's just a kid, he's kind of learned this from some of the best, and so I'm even now picking up on some of that. Right, that
Yeah.
wasn't usually what I focused on, but now even what are we seeing when we walk in just from the eyes of a consumer?
Very interesting. And then these decisions that like I start to think about the beauty and the chaos that is a restaurant and all the decisions that go into every single piece of it. And you just mentioned an app, which how many layers of complexity I don't even want to get into. Then you mentioned, of course, like maintaining outside to make it look beautiful. How do
Yeah.
the people at the store, how do the staff interact with guests? But then like who's choosing music? Like how does that happen?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you hit on it. Hit on it. You heard me talk a little bit before about brand standards and consistency. You know, music's one of them. Like, do we have the right music? Is the right volume? Who selected the soundtrack? Is this a corporate decision that was made? Or are we leaving the autonomy to the restaurants? But the ones that really get me are when we're serving things that aren't necessarily on our menu, or one of the vendors gets in there and says, hey, you know what, we'll give you a cooler with this in it, and you just have to prop these up, and you can sell Red Bull, or you can sell Doritos, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
But just
I
for
get
clarity,
it.
both of those vendors are great. I don't want it.
No, I get it. It's just
But
it just like I get it.
yeah, I mean, you know what it is, right? And for me, it's about, I want to provide the same consistent experience of quality and greatness to the guest. I don't think we should be selling flan this or shrimp that if it's not in our brand set. So
And then is this so? I'm going to ask you a little bit of a hairy question, and you can tell me, and you can skip it if you want. But I often wonder, because this is a new world for me. I never quite understood that there was a little bit of a battle that happens between franchises and franchisees.
yeah,
And I'm sure that that's an evolution of, the owners wanting the owners of the franchisees wanting to evolve, or maybe perhaps like decisions being made on the corporate side that they don't quite have the perspective on. But is that super challenging to deal with franchisees?
I have good franchisees, but
Okay.
but don't get me wrong. There's challenges every day, and it's the nuances. The nuance is I'm an entrepreneur, and I know my business and my market. Versus we're corporate, we know the brand, we're allowing you to have the brand, we got to align. And I can see both sides of this. I find myself often conflicted because I see where the autonomy of allowing a entrepreneur to run a restaurant in his market or her market and be successful really depends on them knowing that space, understanding the people there, and understanding how that should sell. Versus when I say on the corporate side, I'm like, look, at the end of the day, this is about building a brand. When we
Yeah.
build a brand, the most important thing is consistency across all of your restaurants. So there's definitely conflict. It is, but I would call it a healthy tension to
Okay.
happen. Where I have found, and this has been probably the most challenging part of my job, just because I came from most of a corporate environment with Chili's and Brinker.
Yeah.
We had a few franchisees, but most of it was corporate, to a highly franchised environment. What I'm learning is you got to listen.
Hmm.
You can't go in thinking you know everything, and you can't just speak from an ivory tower. You have to be in the restaurants, you have to prove yourself, and then you have to speak from a position of knowledge, and you have to listen to what the franchise partners are telling you, because even if you think some of it is not accurate, if the sentiment is shared across multiple franchise partners, the reality is there's probably an aspect of truth in those comments. And so that's taught me to be more patient, more willing to listen, slow down a little bit, and understand that maybe I don't have all the answers, and that there's other people out there that could help us really grow this brand. And so that's been a challenge, but also a learning curve.
I can imagine. In a market, for example, like Texas, which is like, to me, like the first time I ever flew into Dallas, I landed. I was going to see a friend of mine. I opened a restaurant in Dallas, Texas, which was a big learning experience for me. I was very young. But when I landed, I thought it was a joke. Like we're going down, I think we're going down 75 or something. And everywhere was a different taco concept. It was like Taco Diner, Taco Cabana.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't end. Chewy's. I've
Mhm.
never seen such an insanely like rich Tex-Mex and Mexican style food. Like, so when you guys decided to go to Texas,
Yeah.
you're
Yeah.
you're really going up against a lot of people's ideas of what Tex-Mex is, right? And you guys wouldn't even describe yourself as Tex-Mex, right? More like a
Yeah.
Baja, right? Baja
Uh-huh.
Baja-style.
Yeah.
So is
Which,
that like a crazy challenge? To, like,
oh, it is.
we don't have
It,
quesadillas. Sorry.
yeah. It gets the toughest market I have. And it's because um, people view us from the lens that they already know, which is Tex-Mex. So when they walk in and they're looking around and they're like, this isn't what I'm used to. This isn't what I thought. This isn't what I want, right? And what I'm trying to help them understand is try this. And so a lot of it is in Texas is about just getting the product in people's mouths, because if they'd be willing to not go down the Tex-Mex road, but they'll actually come down the Baja road, they'll fall in love with it. It's great food, but it's a different mind shift for people. That's where a lot of people in Texas think, are you guys a barbecue joint? Because you serve this like sweet pork thing. And I'm like,
Really?
nope. You put it in tomatillo sauce and cover it and get a little ranch on the side, a tomatillo ranch. It's going to be fantastic. And we start to win customers over slowly, but it is the toughest market for us. It's also the one with the most opportunity. It is a massive opportunity for us.
What a place, man. I mean, is it not? I think it's the largest restaurant market. I don't know if Dallas is, but I feel like Texas is the largest restaurant market in maybe in the world per capita.
Yeah, I thought it was the world with El Paso, Austin, Houston, Dallas, and then all of the kind of surrounding areas that they provide more, population and overall restaurant density than any other state, and I think many countries, right? It's a massive organization.
So now that you've worn the CEO hat for a while, I wonder, how does your experience in restaurants change? So let's say you're going out with the family. Let's say it's celebratory time. Whatever it is to celebrate, it's mom and dad's anniversary, or one of the kids, did something great at school. Where will you guys go? Where's like what makes everyone happy when you want to go out?
I mean, I hate to give my competitors airtime, but I will. I mean, we always ask them, you want to go to Costa? And they're like, yeah, we go there all the time. Let's go somewhere else.
We live there.
My kids love BJ's Brewhouse.
Okay.
They love the diversity of that menu, the pizzas, the burgers, and that if it's available, they're going to go there. Now, they're not really our competitor, but I will tell you, when I worked for Chili's for years, they were a competitor, and I didn't ever love to give them airtime. But man, those guys, that menu, that quality of food, I've been just super impressed with. That's where the kids want to go.
Awesome. How old are your kids?
So I got an older brood now. 20. There's 4 of them.
Okay.
Span from 23 to 16. Yeah, most of them are now in the adult age, and they need to leave the house. But it's hard to get them out of the house when dad has provided a very nice living for them.
You want me to clip this, and we can have Raquel will just send these directly into, if they have LinkedIn profiles, we'll just.
Fantastic. Just hit them. Dad needs you off the payroll and out of the house, right?
But how else are you going to get unsolicited Costa Vida feedback?
Yeah, that's true. Actually, 2 of my kids actually work in restaurants. Because they've just been around it the whole time. They love that environment. They hear dad talk about it, so I think it's kind of rubbed off on them.
How old are those kiddos?
My 18-year-old and my 21-year-old, the 2 middle.
All right, so let me ask you: do you have conflicting feelings about this? Because I don't have kids yet, but I've often wondered about this. How did you feel when your kids were like, "Hey, I want to work at a restaurant"?
I was mixed for me.
Yeah,
it was mixed for me because I'm like, do you enjoy getting your butt kicked?
Exactly.
They look at me like, what? I'm like, just work. Actually, your first shift's closing. I'm just going to let you go figure it out, son. It's Friday night on a close. I'm going to give it to you and let you figure it out. I actually think you learn so much in restaurants. You work super hard. It's kind of, you have to serve. You have to have a heart of service to be in this industry. You get, you're kind of I shouldn't say the low, that's the wrong term, but sometimes you get pushed down on a little bit in this industry. And it's crazy because you're providing such a you're manufacturing the food right there. Where other place in the world do you manufacture something in the moment and hand it to somebody? Not consumer packaged goods, not groceries, not airlines, not cars, right? You're creating something with love and you're handing it to somebody. So I love that they work in it. I will hope that they build a career in a corporate or more white collar setting, because I know that's a grind to be on the front line every day. But sometimes that's what it's for. Some people love that and they want that. So, but yeah, it's mixed emotions.
I listen, you have children, so you have a much more and better and more developed perspective. But, I got that first tip out. I mean, because I started as a host, 15 years old. Then I got that first busboy tip out from like this incredible woman. She like taught me everything about being on the floor. She was like 40s and she was like super strong personality, but she was just so incredibly like in control of her dining room, and she saw me everywhere I walked, and she would say, "You did a really good job tonight, X. Here's $25." And
That's cool.
I remember that first time I got that little extra, I was like, "This is it. It's it. I'm rich. I'm
It's
never
so
leaving."
addictive. It's
It's
addictive.
addictive.
Like, this.
It's addictive, and like so, yeah. I have that mixed emotion thinking about if I want my kids in it, because part of this is like once you get a taste of it, you're compelled. It like brings you
Yeah.
back. Something about this industry is just intoxicating, and I mean, I've got to imagine that there are some low lows and there are high highs, like
Yeah.
and so I was going to ask you about now that you're in what seems to be a much more political role in your now that you're having to deal with a lot. I mean, I feel like you have a very complex set of circumstances. You've got a great brand. You're growing out of some of the states that you guys have really developed a foundation in. You're dealing with franchisees. You're dealing with obviously an economy that's weird. I don't want to say it's good or bad, but it's not 2020 or 2021. I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
So when things come to you, for example, hey, we're trying this new dish out, or we think that this is a great opportunity for us to adjust the menu, and you don't like it. How do you handle that, and what's the best for any budding aspiring CEOs and leaders and presidents? How do you handle that dynamic when you're trying
Yeah.
to voice your opinion without pushing it out?
That's a really good question. I'm glad you asked it, because I've thought a lot about this, because what I've learned in my role is I can sway a room really quickly just by a title, just because of my title and words I can say. And so I'm never first to speak, and I'm always conscious of who's in the room stating their opinion first, and the rationale and the logic that they're using on tasting the dish or ideating on whatever the topic is. So I'm very cautious of that. I've had to be much more cautious as I've got into my president and CEO role. If there's something that I am just in, I'll say, violent disagreement.
Yeah.
Because that's what I'll use, right? When it's that black for me, black and white, if it's that black, I will be super transparent and honest.
Okay.
And I will speak from a position of, here's why I don't like it, and here's why I don't think the guest is not going to like it. And these are my concerns. I'll never just absolutely block it, but I will speak pretty stern on how I feel and what I think the guest is thinking. If I'm on the fence, or it doesn't really, I can't really get my head around whether, like, it's probably not for me, but it might be for our customer base, I'm a lot less aggressive in my position, because our culinary guys, our innovation people, our supply chain people, our marketers, they know our guest way better than I think I know our guest. And how many times in my career have I seen a CEO or a CMO or a CFO walk in and say, well, my aunt or my nephew or my daughter, and you're just like, you know what? I'm going to leave the expertise to the experts. I'm not going to force my opinion on people. So I've been super cautious of that because of the experience that I've had in my career of people pushing down when they shouldn't push down.
That's an interesting one. I feel like my stance has always been, all right, let's try it your way. I'm going to copy everybody in an email real quick, so it's very clear.
Everybody knows
that I got your back. I got your back. No, I'm just kidding.
Yep.
No, it's a tough thing, because a couple times in my life, I've been entrusted to help develop menus and stuff. And when you start to involve the personalities and, tastes and, all these things that are developed over time, it can get a little bit
Yeah,
sensitive, and
absolutely.
I can only imagine, if like the final stamp of approval has to come from you or the owners on like something new, it's got to be a tough place to be.
Yeah. Opinions, everybody has an opinion, but the data will tell the story. And so I always go back to what's the data tell me? What are the customers telling me?
And then, okay, and then so with data, now that now from your perspective, how is marketing changing just in terms of connecting with younger people? Like how I can
Oh, yeah.
imagine that Costa Vida, right? Like what's your demo like and where are you trying to grow it? Like and how do you get to those people now?
Yeah. Yeah, the marketing's totally changed. I mean, just even the vehicles themselves have changed.
Yeah.
And it changes so fast. I mean, now the big push is all around how do you get eyeballs, but not on television? How do you get them in social media and short video format? And then how do you do it in such a way that doesn't feel like you're selling to them, but you're just being part of their lives?
Yeah.
Which is not easy and it's difficult. Our target, we do really well with young or millennial moms. And
Okay.
even Gen Z, that's kind of who wants to eat
Health
fresh, clean,
conscious.
health, and
Yes.
health conscious, and they want to bring their kids to have a kids quesadilla and a cinnamon twist, and so for me, that's where we've got to lean on marketing. For years and years and years, we've kind of played the traditional boomer Gen X. We are now focused on millennial moms with families that are healthy and health conscious and want to feed their kids not out of a sack, but out of something that's kind of scratch. And even these, I'd say the younger generation, I don't know what they call them these days. I always refer, my kids are always
What are
Gen
they?
Z, so
Yeah.
millennial, Gen Z. Um, the opportunity then is to meet them in college and high school. So
Yeah.
we do a lot of saturation in high schools and get those meal cards in their hands and reward them at the football games and, beat the burrito and we have a burrito dressed up and you chase them down and beat up the costume burrito, whatever it is that gets these high school kids going. And then we plant our restaurants very close proximity to high schools and colleges and universities because it's a quick, easy bite and it's delicious and it's fresh. And we indoctrinate them young. That's what I'll say. To get them to come to our brand.
Did you ever hear about that the marketing approach that Nesquik took for coffee?
No.
It was like a 15-year plan. They tried to enter the market in the early 90s and they wanted to get people drinking instant coffee, but it was in a completely immersed culture of tea. And they're like, if you're going to try and get people in Japan to start drinking coffee, don't even start with people that are 18 plus. You need to go like
Younger.
10, 15, right? So they started with coffee candies. Then they moved into like easy, quick, like coffee, like mixed sweet coffee drinks.
Yeah.
Now it's one of the most developed and incredible coffee cultures in the world, but it was a 15-year plan to get 10-year-olds on the candies first. So brilliant. I mean, it's the Happy Meal, right?
Yeah.
It
Right.
gets
I
you
mean,
in.
I saw it with Apple. I mean, Apple came in when we were kids and put it in the computer labs and put it in schools. And you're
Same.
like, now I'm going to go with the Mac because I know Mac. Right?
And you know what's so funny is I remember taking some Visual Basic courses, and I had one of those, those cool apples that had the handle on the top.
Oh, yeah.
Remember
Yeah.
that? So I had one of those. It was like an all-in-one
The
piece.
iMac?
It
What
was an
was that?
iMac. I think it was
Yeah,
an
iMac.
iMac. And there were like all
Yeah.
these cool colors. And you walk
Yep.
into the lab and I'm like, this is really cool. I'm going to start
Super
to
cool.
write some code. And my Apple would always crap out. It would always time out. It always had the little, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? And guess
Oh,
what?
well.
I'm an Android user now. I mean, so these little things count.
That's fantastic.
These little things count. All right, cool. So, Wade, when you're gonna go out to celebrate, when you get to 100 stores,
Yeah.
to know is very very soon in your future. You get to 100 stores, and I know you want to get to 1,000. I know you're not gonna say it on the show, but So
500, but yeah.
okay, so you get to 100 stores. What's going to be your celebratory meal? What are you guys going to go out for? Like this
Oh
is now
man.
you and the owners of Costa Vida.
Yeah, for me, it's definitely a steak dinner.
Yeah.
Uh, and it's so I'm a medium guy. It's
Okay.
probably it's probably a ribeye because that's my flavor profile. And it's mashed potatoes and maybe even a really, really good mac and cheese if I could put it on the side. And then probably some asparagus to go with it to try to eat a little healthier.
Yeah.
And I will drink a Mountain Dew at that point. I don't drink Mountain Dew very often. Try to hold back.
Oh,
That is my celebratory drink. I'd be all in on a Mountain Dew.
you know what? And right back to the marketing. Taste the Rockies. They got you.
That's right. Young kid, man. That's what it was all about.
That's so funny. Mountain Dew. Well, so listen. Are you a coffee lover?
I'm not. I'm not even a coffee drinker. It's just never had a taste profile for me.
How about chocolate? Do you like chocolate?
Love chocolate.
You do.
Love chocolate.
Are you a dark chocolate guy? A milk chocolate guy? You like?
I'll eat it all. Like I can go. I get dark chocolate in little bits, but I'll eat milk chocolate in volume.
Okay. This is because Raquel wants to thank you for having joined us. And
Oh,
and I'm currently in Bogota in one of the homes of chocolate. So I'm gonna schlep a beautiful box of chocolates for you across multiple bodies of water. And
wow.
when it gets to you, if there's one gone, it was Raquel. It wasn't me.
Well, Raquel, thank you very much. I appreciate you. That's awesome.
I really
Thanks. It was
You,
awesome.
Wade. I'm so happy that you agreed to join the show, and it was very nice having you here. And now I know you don't drink coffee, but I still think that he should probably have one of the bags of coffee because I will send you one of the best coffees I think in Colombia.
How about
Do
your
it.
wife?
Well, I've got a whole bunch of people in the office that drink coffee, so I'll gladly have them try it, or I'll try it. And we'll do it together. It'll be awesome.
All right. Listen, if this is the one cup that makes you a coffee drinker, everybody has that eureka moment,
Yeah, you never know.
You never know. Well, Wade, just so you know, I've got your order for when I finally see it. Are you going to be at RFDC?
That's the one I am planning on going to. Yeah.
So listen, if you have a night free, I got a ribeye, I got some mac and cheese, I got asparagus, so we can take one picture for the wives, so they can see that there's some green in the picture, and maybe we'll even figure out how to get you a Mountain Dew for that.
That'd be great. Awesome. Actually, it was awesome talking to you, man. I really appreciate it. Super fun.
Thank you, Wade. Thanks for everything. And honestly, man, I cannot wait to try Costa Vida because I am super health conscious. I also avoid gluten because it makes me go crazy, unfortunately. And I can't wait to tell you about my experience.
Perfect. Love it, man. If you get to Salt Lake, let me know.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, Wade. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Raquel.
Thank you, Wade.
Take care.
Bye.
86 Reason Podcast was brought to you by Over Easy Office, outsourced bookkeeping solution.